Hi, everyone. Welcome to our conversation today. The topic is divorce and college. My name's Vicki Vollweiler. I'm the founder of College Financial Prep, and I'm here with Wendy Samuelson. And do you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks. Good evening, everyone. I'm Wendy Samuelson. I'm a divorce attorney. I've been practicing for over 27 years. I have a boutique matrimonial and family law firm in Garden City, Long Island, and we help clients with everything from divorce, custody, and prenups. And of course, sometimes clients come back to us later and ask for help with college. So we're here to help with that as well.
And a little bit about me. For those of you that know me, for those of you that might not, I'm a divorced parent myself. I certainly understand the process of both divorce and college, having been through both personally and professionally. I help clients, primarily separated and divorced clients, though I do assist everyone with the want and the goal of saving money on the cost of college. It can start the early years, people thinking about what those costs will be, especially in the case of separation or divorce, what they need to consider, potentially even for their own divorce agreements, what will those future costs be? But primarily, I do work with high school families, typically starting in either 10th or 11th grades, when they're picking their college lists, and we'll get into that a little bit later, in 12th grade with their financial aid applications and appeals, and even with 12th grade with the financial aid and appeals, and then even with college students, it's still possible for parents, especially in a separation or divorce situation, to save even more money when the students are already in college. So that's who I primarily work with. And then even grad students I help with. But in the main, it's the high school and college years. Okay, so the topic of college and divorce and why put it together? What I've learned over the course of time, and both personally, professionally, working with clients, they are two topics that are both so emotional, both so stressful in terms of the financial situation and the emotions. You add in, you always hear about, you have one whole household, now it needs to support two households. You still have the same amount of money, and now you have to figure in, how am I going to pay for college on top of that? So that's why it's important. And with divorce, while there's that added layer of complexity when thinking about college, there are also additional opportunities if you're strategic and, do it the right way, for saving money. And it's possible to save big money on the cost of college. I'll give you some examples. A couple of different clients. And I mean, here, I'll say this, the weight loss commercials, and they say results may not be typical. Well, I'm going to say results may not be typical with these two clients, but because we were strategic and did things the right way, and the students applied to the right schools and they were accepted by the right schools, and everything fell into alignment. Seriously, these two families both saved hundreds of thousands of dollars. Is that going to happen with every student? No. But yeah, I've seen lots of instances where it's certainly in the tens of thousands of dollars easily. Again, there has to be, there has to be flexibility to make sure that those types of numbers can be achieved. And it depends on a lot of factors. The schools being applied to, the amount of money that we're talking about, both in income and assets, and the parents, and what financial aid applications are needed and whatnot. But it is possible to save.
So Vicki, I think that the issue, though, is that when someone's applying for financial aid, when a couple is divorcing, sometimes they only consider one parent's financials, right? In certain instances.
Yeah, we'll get there later.
Okay.
Yeah, it gets way more confusing than that. But maybe you want to talk a little about the client that we're working on together.
Sure. So we We met actually through Rachel Cayley, who's an attorney who's attending tonight. Hi, Rachel. And I immediately thought, wow, Vicki has a lot of interesting strategies. And I have a client now. She has 4 children and 3 of them are going to be in college, which is a very expensive path. And so I had her call Vicki and explain the situation and see if there are any strategies we can employ. And in fact, Vicki told me that, in one particular child's instance, that they would only consider one of the parents' income and assets. So we figured out a way that we could.
And this is dependent on the schools that the child is applying to.
Right. And so we worked together to figure out a strategy how we could make, the client's assets appear lower, just for the purposes of filling out this financial aid form. So it's interesting that, because they were going through a divorce and they're, separated, that they had this advantage.
Right, and we're talking about it because, not only to help them save money, which will be a win-win for, the entire family, so to speak, but it also concerns their legal, legal documentation, their divorce agreement of how they're going to divide their assets and move forward. So we're trying to take everything into account to best support the family as they move forward. So, a lot of people come to me and just assume, and this even happened in my own case. Oh, you're a divorced mom. You're going to get a lot of aid. Okay, it doesn't work that way. So, if anybody assumes that just because they're a divorced parent, they'll automatically, please don't think that. I'll give you an example. There could be 2 households living next door to one another. And I'm just going to use very, very round numbers. One household can be led by a single parent. The other household can have 2 parents. The 2 parents can earn $50,000 each. The single parent can earn $100,000 each. The divorced parent is not going to have a lot of savings over the other. It goes by household income and household assets. So just because there's a single parent, you can't just assume that they're automatically going to receive savings on the cost of college. Lots of factors go into it. The number of people in the household is only one question. Let me just admit a couple of people.
And before you jump to that, Vicki, my question would be, are you saying that if somebody marries, that they are now considering that spouse's income and assets for purposes of college?
Yes, actually. So there are certain schools that require I would have said one parent's information, and some schools that require both parents' information. However, if both parents are remarried, it's possible for a school to require all 4 parents, and the step parents, both their income and assets.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So one of the things that I do, and I can't stress this enough, it starts with the college planning process and deciding what schools to apply to, and strategically thinking about, what are they going to be looking for when financial aid forms get filled out? Because, I know Wendy knows, I don't know if everyone here knows, even though a step parent would be required to share their financial aid information, there's nothing to force that step parent to pay for the cost of college. But yet for financial aid, they're requiring it. So yeah, it's very important to plan strategically ahead of time and know what schools that you're applying to and what they're going to be looking for. So I stress that.
Vicki, I think what you're saying is there is no standard form. And it
really there's the Fafsa, which is the free application for student aid. There's also the Css Profile. There are also some state government forms. Some of the colleges have their own institutional forms. They all require Fafsa. Some of them require Css Profile. Those are the two main ones. But the question is, what are they going to be looking for? And even the schools that want the Css Profile, some of those schools require both parents. Some of them don't require both parents. It's very, very school specific. So that's why I'm stressing the planning beforehand. The worst thing that someone can do, and this is anybody, married, divorced, widowed, it doesn't matter. The worst thing someone can do is, your child only wants school ABC, they get into ABC, they commit to ABC. Now, how am I going to pay for it? That's the absolute worst thing somebody could do. It's so important to plan beforehand. There's a quote from Ben Franklin, I believe. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So I can't stress, planning early enough.
That's so interesting. So they should come to you to find out what the schools are going to look for when it comes to the financial aid, even before they apply, sounds like.
Yes. So in 11th grade, a lot of times what I'll do is sit down with the parents, the student, and we'll go through either finding schools appropriate to their situation, depending on their income, their assets, where their money is held, the student's interests, we'll look at everything to find those schools that will be financially friendly for that specific family. Or if they already have a college list, they may, and I'm making this up, they have 10 schools, they have 15 schools, whatever, they can come to me with that list and I can run some numbers and, give them a good estimate as to what it will likely cost their family, not the sticker price, but based on all of their specific household information, what those numbers, what the economics will likely look like for that household. So I can't stress that enough.
One of the things that I'm sort of interested in, because I had a client who was asking me this the other day, her parents gave her money for college. And so she took the money and put it into accounts for the children to save for their future.
Right.
Do you recommend against that? Because that now comes up on the balance sheet of the family. Would it have been better for the parents to have put aside that money in a 529 account in the grandparents' names, rather than giving the money over to the children or the parents? That matter.
If it's in a 529 plan for the children, it's still considered a parent asset. So that means it doesn't take as big a hit since it's not in the children's name. If it's held in the grandparents' name, then you're supposed to report it later on as income for financial aid for the child. So it still gets reported on the financial aid application. So, I
didn't know that. So it really doesn't matter.
So I'd be concerned more from the divorce aspect, the legal aspect, if it gets put into the 529 plan, how does it get used and who is it? Is it just considered the one parent's contribution versus both parents' contribution, and how that gets handled?
Sure. So great question. So when I address this question, we are addressing it under New York law. I'm a New York divorce attorney. And so people need to understand that each state has different divorce laws. So I'm only speaking to New York when you ask me that question, okay? There is actually no statute under the domestic relations law that covers the 529 plan, okay? But there is case law where courts have decided what to do with these 529 accounts. Generally, they are considered the parent's asset, okay? Even if the money is gifted from one parent, a grandparent on one side or the other. It is up to the parties to decide what they're going to do with that money. Okay. And so if they are going to reach an agreement, in their divorce, they want to make sure they earmark whose 529 account funds these really are. Are we going to first use all of that 529 account to pay for college? And then the parties will pay their pro rata share after the 529 account is used up? Or will the 529 account be applied towards somebody's share of the college? For example, if a client came to me and said, my parents gave me 100 grand to put into a 529 account, it's all from my parents, okay? I would want to negotiate that she gets to use that against her pro rata share of the college expense in the future. So it's really important that that aspect is negotiated in the agreement and it is defined. I also once had a client where they came to me after the fact. I did not do their divorce agreement, and it said any money in the 529 account will be applied towards college. Okay. The problem was they didn't define when the money would be put in. So that after the parties divorce, both parties continued to put money in, or maybe only one party put money in. And all of a sudden, all of that is being used first before the parties pay their pro rata share, which is an unfair result. So the client should have been advised, number one, set up a new 529 account so that the account that's listed in the agreement is not now being the other account that you have, right? You want to have a complete distinction so that money that you've saved is going to go against your share of it.
Fabulous. Let me touch on what you said the beginning about different states. I'm not sure who is exactly from where here, but as Wendy said, not every state requires that college is included in a divorce agreement. However, of course, it's still a very, very important topic. I would hope that you might be able to speak with your soon to be former spouse or your former spouse and can come to some agreement to help the children with college. But if not, I mean, it's still important to consider it moving forward, to best support your child. And, let me say this, the work that I do with clients, everybody comes in with a different goals, different values, different ideas, different situations. We all get that life happens and, we may not necessarily be able to save as much as we'd hoped for college expenses for our kids. Sometimes people will come to me and there's true need-based, a need-based situation, and we help them find those schools that are going to do the best to meet that need. There are other people that only want the best school for their child, and they just want to try to, save anything that they can, but they're still going to go to that school that they perceive as best. And then there are other people that want the best school at the best price, what they perceive as the best value. So there really is no right or wrong, but it is important, no matter what the situation, to plan ahead and think strategically in terms of, where to apply and how to position yourself or your child to make sure to maximize the savings and ideally minimize the need for student loan debt.
So Vicki, I'll speak to what you were discussing about, how each state has different child support and college laws. In New York, child support goes until age 21. That is not every state. I can tell you right now, I was on the phone with a matrimonial attorney from Texas yesterday, and their child support only goes till age 18, okay? And obviously college starts at age 18. So I asked the Texas lawyer, well, what about college? Does the court require the parents to pay for college? And she said, absolutely not. Okay. In New York, the courts may award college expenses based on your pro rata share of the combined income. And then the question of what income is a whole nother lecture for another day, but you sort of get the idea. The court is going, if a parent objects to paying for college, the court's going to look at whether or not the parents went to college and their education, their economic backgrounds. They're going to assess whether or not the child, has good academics and should go to college. The reason I think that New York requires, for the most part, that parents pay for college is because you don't want to have a situation where both parents point the finger and say, ask your your mother or ask your father to pay for it. I'm not going to pay for it. And so they don't want children to be left out if they're going through divorce, where parents don't get along well enough to make these decisions. So in addition, in New York, depending on the economic status of the parents, the court may award what's called a SUNY cap, State University of New York. These are colleges. Vicki, how much is SUNY these days? Is it like 25,000?
Yeah, it's probably up to like 26, 27.
So those are considered cheaper if you consider that cheap. But
if a household earns less than 125,000, they can qualify for the Excelsior Scholarship. So there is some savings depending on the household.
Okay. And, for parents who make $250 a year or more, generally the court is not going to award a SUNY cap. They're going to say, let the child go to the best school that they can get into. So what if you're in Texas, right? And the court's not going to award child support for college? What do you do? Well, it would probably be in your best interest to negotiate this as part of your agreement, because you don't want to turn around when the child's in high school and both parents point a finger and say, go to the other parent to pay for it. And if they're if they're really not getting along, one parent might wind up paying 100% of it. So wouldn't it be better to agree to some fair percentages up front? That also allows people to prepare and plan to save for college. So I would say it's always in everybody's best interest to work it out. I know there was somebody who said in the chat when we first got on that they have a 3-year-old. It's never too early to start planning. You should be putting money away every year so that you don't turn around and get blindsided and realize you don't have money put away.
Right. Something that you made me think of to share with everyone. Sometimes people will think, especially with the cost of college these days, and especially in a separation or divorce situation, well, if my kid wants to go to school ABC and it costs $80,000 a year, or even if it costs $20,000 a year and you can't afford it, you think you can't afford it, my kids will take out loans and they'll pay for it. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately. Freshman year, the kids can only take out on their own up to $5,500 a year. After that, it falls on the parents to take out loans or to at least be co-signers on the loans. So yeah, that's another huge reason why it's important to plan ahead accordingly and not wait till after the school is decided upon. Make sure it's financially feasible.
Sure.
Okay, so I know that there are some questions in the chat. Why don't we look at the chat now, and then we can bring
it on. Bring it on.
Let me see. Having a problem scrolling here. So I see here. I hope I'm doing this right. Somebody asked, I'm not sure, FAFSA CSS profile for non-custodial parent. So yes, that's the case for the CSS profile, not for FAFSA.
Okay, Vicki, why don't you tell, I'm a newbie here at these acronyms, so why don't you tell us what FAFSA is?
So I said this earlier, FAFSA, free application for federal student aid. So FAFSA gets filled out. It opens October 1st of senior year, needs to be filled out every single year that the child is in college. Multiple reasons to fill it out, even if you think you earn too much money and you're not going to get any financial aid. So you fill out FAFSA, 1, if you're looking for need-based aid. 2, if you're looking for that student loan. I mentioned $5,500 for freshmen, it's $6,500 for sophomores, and $7,500 each year for juniors and seniors. That loan, the family can earn millions and millions of dollars, and as long as you fill out a FAFSA application, as long as you submit it, the child qualifies for that loan. So that's certainly a reason to fill it out. Another reason to fill it out is, and again, this is a need-based situation, but if the student wants to be considered for work-study programs, FAFSA needs to be submitted. Another reason to fill out FAFSA, it's kind of like an insurance product. You submit it, and then I hope this never happens to anybody, but what if somebody gets hit by a bus? What if somebody loses a job? What if there's this huge change in financial situation in the household? Then it's possible to go back, and such as divorce and separation. So this huge change will allow for appeals to be filed, and it's possible to save money on the cost of college. But if FAFSA is not on file, you may need to wait another year to do so. Okay,
so I have a question. So you were talking about a child getting a loan. Is it this? So do you fill out the FAFSA if the parents are getting the loan?
Ideally, yes, because the loan that the child gets is going to have the lowest interest rate. So it's best to take out that loan first before the parents take out more.
Okay. I also want to speak to the what if you get hit by the bus?
Just a figure of speech. I hope it never happens to anyone.
We learned a lot in the last 2 years with COVID. So, I don't mean to make a joke about it, but it's not funny. But, life does has its twists and turns. And I certainly experienced quite a bit of people that I lost. But I want to.
By a bus, they can call me for personal injury.
Okay. So I want to be mindful to address the audience and let them know that one of the things that you need to have in your divorce agreement, if you are receiving child support and if your spouse is going to be contributing to college, is to make sure there is a life insurance policy that covers not just the basic support that the parent is going to pay, but also the future cost of college. And you need to think about it in terms of not what college costs today, but what it might cost with inflation in the future. Very, very important.
Somebody else was also asking about the CSS profile. The CSS profile, and they mentioned a non-custodial parent. That's where a non-custodial parent would come into play, and potentially their spouse if the non-custodial parent is remarried, but it really depends on the colleges being applied to.
Okay, also tell us what CSS is and when do you do that?
So both FAFSA and CSS become available October 1st. CSS profile, candidly, I don't remember offhand what CSS stands for, but that's through the College Board. It's mostly, it's about 400 or so private schools that want the CSS profile, a couple of public schools, but in the main private schools, typically it's the big names that it's the Ivies, it's the GWs, the BUs, the NYUs, if typically, if you know the name and you've seen them on sweatshirts and bumper stickers, they likely want the CSS profile. I mean, just, just general. I mean, it's not an exact science like that, but you
Right.
kind of know what I mean. So those are open October 1st. I'll just put this out there. I do, College Financial Prep does offer, advice and consulting and, preparation and all of that with, when it comes to financial aid applications. So next question I see here is, what if you live with a boyfriend, not a husband, not a stepdad? Keep it that way. I always tell people, I understand you're in love. Don't remarry till after the kids are done with college.
That's so interesting. So another person in the household, even if they are not married to you, could be considered in the financial application.
Yes. You file a joint, if you file a joint tax return, it's considered. Don't do it. Even if it says, even married filing separately, you still have to show both.
Okay, but if you're not, you can't file a joint tax return unless you're married, so.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Don't get married.
Oh, okay. So you don't have. There was a question in the chat about, what about people who are already divorced and the agreement did not address college? I can tell you from a New York perspective, if you're in the process of getting divorced and your kids are under the age of 16 and you did not negotiate the agreement, but you went to trial and a judge had to decide the case, the judge will not decide college at that time, which means you need to wait until the child is in usually sophomore, junior year of high school, and then come in and make a new application to ask that the other parent contribute their pro rata share to college. So there may be instances where you do need to secure legal counsel to help you with that.
I'll address this. I mean, I'm from New York, but I work with clients nationwide. If college is not in your divorce agreement and, you're participating in college, hopefully both parents will participate. But if not, you plan on your own and you plan to do, as best as possible. Just plan ahead. Again, there are strategic steps to take to help minimize the cost of college. Yeah, I mean, just so everyone knows, I mean, some schools out there, will meet full need. The Ivies, for instance, will meet whatever your full need is, is determined by the formulas. Of course, your child has to be able to be admitted to those schools that will meet full need. But, there are opportunities out there. So don't think, all is hopeless. Let me scroll on. Somebody wrote, and I don't really understand this. I don't know what it was referring to. What if that's exactly what you've done? That's the situation we're in. That person may want to add some more clarification, please.
I think Elena has a question for you, Vicki.
Yeah, hi, that's me. Can I elaborate on that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Debbie. So, I mean, you said don't do this, and that's exactly the situation we've done. You said it like twice.
Wait, don't do this regarding what?
Well, let me say, you said don't have your kid get into the apply early, commit, and then try and figure out. So that's what we've done. Our son was accepted early to Sarah Lawrence. He's a rising, senior. He's going to be a freshman, and now we're separating and divorcing. So, and we earned too much from our 2020 tax return to qualify for financial aid, but our financial situation is obviously changing. So
I mean, I'm not going to ask you, real in-depth personal questions right now, but if you're the custodial parent and if there's a significant discrepancy between your incomes, it's definitely possible to appeal to the college.
Yeah.
And hopefully, it can be reviewed even though you were using 2020 tax returns.
Okay. And is now the moment to be doing that? In terms of so he's been accepted already. He would be starting in the fall and we're in the middle of our
Are you living
separation.
together or separately?
we're about to be separated.
Yeah, I'd wait about 6 months.
You'd wait about 6 months.
I would
He'll be
talk to
fully-
Vicki first.
Yeah,
Come up with a plan.
but he's starting
yeah.
school in the fall, and so
Yeah, yeah, but right now you're still living together, so they're not going to, if two people, I mean, if both parents are even divorced, but yet you're still living in the household, you're both still reporting.
yeah, but we're separating as of May 1st.
Right, so typically you need to be living in two separate residences for 6 months.
Okay, all right, okay, thank you. But this is the kind of thing you could consult on and.
Oh,
help us
yeah, definitely. No,
strategize.
I mean,
Yeah,
this is one of those things that I said, depending on like the schools and the situation and the parents' individual financial circumstances.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there are definitely possibilities for savings, good possibilities, but again, it depends on, each person's income and each person's assets and how it plays into the formulas.
and
Yeah.
and just like, because total newbie first kid going to college, do you pay, because we have enough money in a 529 to cover most of the first year, but do you pay everything up front, or do you pay like by semester?
I'm going to say it depends on how much you have in the account. I would hope that if there is not enough to cover the 4 years, I would sooner think put it up front to minimize the need for student loans and then accruing interest on the student loans.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
So I would say
Yeah.
the loans towards the end. You also have to consider, especially if it was a better stock market, how much you were potentially earning in the 529s. Now it may be a good time to use them up. I don't know. But you have to, weigh that out.
Okay.
I'll say this, I'm not an investment advisor. I don't,
No, I hear you.
I don't do things with the 529 plans, but
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
you're welcome.
Yeah, so I think it's a good idea to understand what the plan might be, even though your child is starting college. There may be ways of, figuring out how to spend down assets, transfer assets, do certain things in order to maximize getting some financial aid. So it's always good to have that talk. Whoops.
Let me.
That's the 15-minute mark for a last couple of questions. I said I was going to turn on this timer to make sure that we could take our audience questions, because that's what we're here for.
Yeah, well, we're doing that now anyway. So I'm reading a question. What about kids who apply and accepted early? So I'm assuming this means early decision. Do they improve their position for financial aid? Sorry, you may be hearing tapping. My dog Maggie decided to come down and join us. So I apologize for that. Do they improve their position? If this person could elaborate, because of the divorce, do they improve their position, or why? I'm not understanding the question, or why they, what the thought is about improving the position for financial aid.
I think they were just saying if they get an early decision, does that get them ahead?
Early decision in general, I'll talk about early decision, and my point of view is don't do it. Do early action, do regular decision. Early decision, you're committing to that school and basically saying you're going to pay whatever they tell you it is to pay. So unless we sit down together and run those numbers about what the likely cost is for your household, and you are fully aware of what that number will probably be and are comfortable with it, I would not suggest doing it.
Okay. And Vicki, so just to give our audience some perspective, we talked about what the cost of a SUNY college is, but what if somebody gets into an NYU, my alma mater, Cornell, Syracuse? What are we talking about in terms of the annual cost of college these days?
Right now,
without
like, the
financial aid?
prices, like with room and board and everything. I mean, there are some schools that are over $80,000 a year now, all in. So yeah, it's really important to be aware of what's going on. Some of the out-of-state public universities are certainly in the 50s, at least now, per year, in general. And this is just a general statement. Don't hold me to it for every single school. but the public universities are not necessarily as generous, certainly with merit aid, as private universities. And that's not to say that merit aid isn't available. They're public universities. They can't afford to be as generous. They don't have those endowment funds. But that being said, I'm in New York, so we were talking about SUNY schools. So even SUNY schools, for those in New York, they offer merit aid. But a SUNY school may offer an in-state student $3,000, but look at what the total cost is to begin with. So you can't expect a SUNY to be able to offer, $20,000, $30,000 in merit scholarships when the starting, cost isn't
Right.
there. So you have to.
So just based on what you're saying, we're talking, a school could be between $70,000 and $80,000. So 4 years of that is,
Right.
could be
You could
anywhere
talk
from
$320,000.
$280,000 to $320,000. So it's a big chunk of change. So what about, and I have some clients who do this. It's not something they consulted with me with, but they said, we bought an apartment in a state where the child's going to school in order to be a resident in that state. Can you talk a little bit about that?
It's possible to do that. Every state is different. Some states require you live in the state for a year. Some states require that you live in the state for 2 years. And it's not just the student lives there because they go to college there. No, the parents need to develop a residence. Florida is actually interesting. Florida, they're allowing students to attend Florida state universities and qualify for in-state tuition if a grandparent lives in Florida. So that's interesting for students.
And you only have to be there for the time that you're actually attending college, correct?
You mean
So you only have to be a resident for the time you're attending the college. So it's just the 4 years.
Right. But if somebody's like looking to purchase an apartment, it may benefit them only for 2 years in terms of saving the residence. But what's interesting about purchasing a place too is that, I've not clients, but I've heard of situations where the student moves out of the dorms and moves into the place that was purchased by, say, mom or dad. And then they have roommates move in and the roommates pay them rent. So they're like saving money, making money by moving out of the dorms.
That's exactly what my client was doing. He shared a house with a bunch of kids. They all contributed to the rent, and it was considered, an investment.
Right.
And so
Exactly.
sometimes I do have clients who, as part of their divorce agreement, agree to buy into this and then sell it, after the child graduates, and then split the proceeds. Yeah.
I see a question in the chat. When do you suggest we start to fill out the Fafsa form? So both Fafsa and CSS, they open October 1st. Ideally,
October 1st of the year that the child's about to go to college?
So the first time it gets filled out is 12th grade for freshman year, and freshman year you fill it out for sophomore year, and so on. So it gets filled out the 4 years. I try to submit all of the Fafsa forms as early in the cycle as possible. Imagine the schools have like a pot of money to give out, and the longer you wait, the pot dwindles. So it's important to get them submitted as soon as possible.
Okay, and once somebody applies, so say that the deadline is October 1st, so that's when it opens.
No, that's when it opens.
So you want to get it in October 1st because you want to be first in line. How long does it take to hear back? When do you know what you've been granted?
Well,
and do you have to have decided your college already?
No. So imagine a 3-legged stool. You have the financial aid forms, you have the college applications, and then you have the SATs and the ACTs and the test scores. And for everybody saying, well, tests, the schools are now test optional. Take the tests anyway. Schools are still using those tests to award merit scholarship money. Take the tests. Have your kids study even if they complain. It could save you money. But anyway, so you're submitting the Common App, which is used to apply to the colleges, opens August 1st. I don't really do any work with the Common App, but I'll say this, and I'm saying this as a mom having been through it. The sooner you get it in, ideally before Labor Day even, the sooner your kid is able to focus on their regular schoolwork and not have to be writing essays and all of that. So get the Common App in as early as possible. Then it'll be time to focus on the financial aid applications and getting those in. Then the colleges, depending on which colleges and whatnot, they take their time and they'll start sending acceptance letters. The colleges that your child is accepted to will then typically send financial aid award letters in March. Let me back up a second. When your child receives their acceptance letters, they're usually notified of any merit scholarship money that they're receiving. But that's not the full picture. Come March, they should find in their college portals their financial aid award letters. And that will tell you the cost for tuition, the cost for room and board, the additional expenses, the fees, you know, what they estimate for books and transportation and whatnot. It'll also tell you the merit scholarship money that you're receiving. It'll also tell you about any grants or need-based aid that you're receiving. And then it'll go into if your child's getting going to receive work study and you know, loan amounts, and are the loans subsidized or unsubsidized, and yada yada. Anyway, so that happens in March. By May 1st, it's decision day. So you send in everything really early. It's hurry up and wait. You send it in really early and you really have to wait all, you know, almost all of 12th grade to have all the pieces put together. So right now, you know, basically just finishing up, going through with clients, the analyzing all of their award letters because nothing is standardized, the filing appeals and negotiating with colleges to get them more money. Yes, colleges are a business. Most colleges you can negotiate and save even further. And that's a lot of the work that I do with clients. And then soon it's going to be time to figure out how to pay for it all, and, you know, student loans.
That's a great timeline for everybody to be aware of. I think that was really helpful. Thank you for that.
You're very, very welcome. Yeah, let's see if there's a couple of quickie or questions.
We have about two more minutes left, so we can handle maybe one or two questions. If there's anything in the chat.
Yeah, I'm trying. Is everyone already divorced? I know I'm past that part. What now? I'm what now? Move on with life. Live a good life. Live a good life. Try to put all of the emotion behind you. Move forward. I don't know if that's what really the person was asking, but that's my own personal advice.
So not everybody here tonight is divorced. Some people were just really interested in finding out about financial aid. So, but I think the takeaway here for tonight is that, you know, there are some strategies you can employ when going through a divorce to basically maximize the financial aid you're going to get. And you really need to have a consultation with an advisor like Vicki so that you can fully understand what those options are and how best to navigate them. And then, of course, if you're going through the divorce, if you're in New York, I'd love to speak to you, consult with you, help you through the process. And we, of course, will talk about college and how that's going to get paid and who's responsible for paying it. Okay.
I see one more. I see. Oh, what assets are looked at for financial aid? I see. It depends on the school and the financial aid forms that you're needed. So some schools don't look at retirement accounts or the value of your house. Some schools do. That's why, you know, like I was saying earlier, I can't stress enough that, you know, it's important to plan strategically based on your personal financial situation and where your money is held and, you know, the dynamics going on in your household as to what schools to apply to.
I think
So,
also when you were saying when it comes to assets, that it only matters at that point in time when you're applying. It doesn't matter what happened 3 years ago, right?
true, true. So, typically let me say this, for students graduating now, this coming June, or, high school seniors right now, depending on when you are, I guess they could be graduating earlier. So for kids entering college fall 22, we're using 2020 tax returns. So you're looking at 2020 income, but you're looking at assets, current assets, the date that the financial aid forms are being completed. So depending on the schools, it's how deep of a dive they're going to do into your assets.
What about assets that are placed in trust? What if parents have a trust?
Yeah, but if the children have a trust, if the parents have a trust, that gets counted too. Yes. Yeah, it gets counted.
Interesting. So you can't shield it the way some
Not that
people
way, no.
assets and trust. Okay. Good
Yeah.
to know.
Yeah. Wish it worked that way, but it doesn't. I saw, does Vicki do a first free consultation? If you go on my website, I do offer a 15-minute introductory call. It's just a very, very general call. Please, if you have a, specific question, if there's, something you're already in the middle of and you're stuck, I can't do it as a free consultation. This is just a very introductory one, but you can certainly find my contact information or reach out there.
Okay.
On the
And
website.
at the end, in about a minute, we're going to put up our full contact information in case you guys want to reach out to either one of us.
Yeah, that would be great. I'm divorced and still renting, but considering buying, should I hold off in an attempt to get need-based aid? No, if anything, you probably have more assets because you're holding off buying a house, I would think. I really can't answer that without knowing more information, but that's just my first.
Right, and like you said, you were just saying that some applications or some, financial aid don't consider the ownership of the house. So if you have the money sitting in a bank account, it might look like you have more money, but if you went and bought a house, it might look like you have less money. So all these optics matter at the end of the day.
How do they decide what parent co-signs the loan? Both parents can take out loans. It doesn't matter who completes any financial aid applications. Yeah, that's always a misconception. Both parents can take out loans.
Doesn't matter if they're the custodial parent or not, correct?
I'm sorry?
It does not matter if they are the custodial parent.
Correct.
Okay.
I just want to say,
Great.
oh, Rachel has something to say. Rachel?
If you don't mind, I just want to very briefly, just for everybody to know, I'm a bankruptcy attorney. And one of the things I see parents, where they co-sign student loans or frankly, any kind of loan for their child, but student loans particularly, and their child ends up not paying them or defaulting on the loan, you are still personally responsible for that student loan. And it is not dischargeable if you do need to file for bankruptcy. Sometimes parents co-sign a loan and they fall into their own financial difficulties, and student loans are not dischargeable in bankruptcy. So, you gotta, if you are co-signing a student loan for your child, you need to make sure that you're protected as well, as best as you can, in terms, or at least know that you will be responsible for those student loans regardless of your child's ability to pay.
Thank you so much for that, Rachel. And I think, Vicki, it's time for us to wrap up. So
Yeah, I just want to say this. I just see one thing where it says, I'm not sure that I agree with you about trust. What about trust set up by grandparents? We're not mandatory to make distribution. If either a child or a parent is a beneficiary of a trust, it is a reportable item. You know, please don't take my word for it. If you're not comfortable with it, you know, do your own research, you know, don't, you know, I'm not here to, I'm just sharing. So please do your own research. Yeah, and I think that's it. I think we're good.
Great. Well, I think, I
Let
hope that
me-
everyone's learned a lot from today.
Here, let me share.
Can I share share the screen?
I'm trying. I think I think I did something wrong.
Looks like something's
There.
loading.
Wait.
There we go. Okay. So, if you
Oh,
guys
well,
want
okay.
to take a little snapshot of that with your phones, so you'll have our contact information. Please know that we're both here for you to offer support. If somebody is going through a divorce and they are not from New York, I could certainly help you with a referral. I have many fine colleagues in all different states, so you can certainly use me as a resource for that. For those of you that are in New York, if you're interested in a consult, you know, please call my office. I'd love to speak to you. There are some clients who already are happy with their divorce attorneys, but it's always great to get a second opinion because the legal profession is a craft, not a science. There are different ways of arguing things and there are different ways of resolving things. So it's always good to have a second opinion. And Vicki, would you like to wrap up and tell us, you know, some of the upcoming seminars that you'll be giving?
Sure. I have 2 new ones coming up. Actually, one of them with Rachel, who was just speaking, you know, in regard to budgeting, bankruptcy, and also we're going to be discussing budgeting, you know, as we plan for college expenses and avoiding bankruptcy due to the high costs. And I'm going to be doing another, that's going to be, I believe, June 9th. And May 10th, I think there'll be one general, not specific to divorce, just on, you know, saving money on the cost of college and, you know, different possible ways to save. Also coming up are going to be opportunities for 11th grade parents to join group coaching programs and some digital downloads. So, you know, be on the lookout for that.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining us today. And we really hope that you found this helpful. And
Yeah, we'll send out a recording so that you have it, and that way you can also always reach out to us.
Yeah, and congratulations to those parents whose children have gotten into a college. Good luck with making the decision on where to go. It's a very exciting time. And for those of you who are empty nesters, you could do a little dance. And we hope you have a great evening.
Thanks everyone for joining us. Have a good night.
Have you stopped recording?
Awesome.